everyone. I am so honored and delighted, thrilled, even a little nervous to be here with one of my heroes, Patrik Baboumian.
Hey.
You are one of the strongest men in the world. You are also one of the real game changers, star of the hit film, The Game Changers. Everybody knows James Cameron, the famous director, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan. So many people are involved in it who are plant-based. And you are one of the world's most famous vegans. I'm going to stop talking and ask you, what has the impact of Game Changers been where you literally topple over a car, you carry 4 men in a walk that seems like something out of a science fiction movie. You are doing things that carnivores cannot do, and you are 100% plant-based.
Yeah, the impact. Well, it's hard to really say, but one thing that I can say definitely is that it's been the biggest thing that I have ever done in my whole career so far. In terms of, I mean, the sheer amount of A-listers who are involved in this film is already been a huge driving force that kind of helped get a big platform for the film to make sure that a lot of people watch it. After it went on Netflix, that was pretty huge, and the reaction really skyrocketed after that. What I feel is that the importance of the film can be defined through the fact that it's actually reaching people who you normally don't reach with the other aspects of veganism. So there are different aspects, of course, why you would try a plant-based diet. One of them being health, another one being social justice. You're using a lot of resources for producing animal products. And then there's the ecological aspect, the ethical aspect, of course. But the audience, the target audience that we're trying to reach with the film is basically men who are concerned about fitness and about their performance.
And about their manliness. And what the film shows is the manliest men, the gladiators, were primarily vegan. That is proved in the film. They go back into history and they find that the gladiators were on pretty much a plant-based diet. And this man, I don't want you to feel exploited, but could you flex? Could you flex? Look at this. Look at this.
So I wouldn't say the gladiators.
Sorry,
were
I
vegan.
had to.
I have to disagree a little bit.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say the gladiators were vegan,
Yeah.
but they were eating like predominantly plant-based. So there's just one side where you actually have a huge amount of gladiator graves, so that you can really kind of work with these skeletons of them and see what kind of diet they were on. And on that side in Ephesus, it looks like the kind of diet that they were on was predominantly plant-based, but I wouldn't call it vegan because obviously, I mean, back then vegan wasn't a thing. So
no, but they were eating mostly fruits and vegetables. The idea that gladiators were just like ripping dead animal parts, it wasn't true. Ditto for the paleo man. And speaking of paleo men who are vegan, we got Jim Greenbaum behind the camera. So let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, Jim, for inviting us over to your lovely home to talk to my hero. When you said that Patrik was available, I was like, let me jump in my car and get right there because this is such a thrilling opportunity. And Jim, if I may ask you, thank you for chipping in behind the camera. If there's any questions that come up, let me know, and I'll just ask you to maybe step 1 foot closer so we can get really good audio because this man has wow, I think you have the secret because let's face it, there's been a whole connection between meat and manliness and a whole campaign. And Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film and in the trailer says, but you have to know that this is a marketing campaign, it's not reality. And so you are busting that reality that you have to kill animals and eat dead animals to be manly. Do you feel the Game Changers has helped us hit the tipping point?
I certainly hope so. I mean, it's time that we get to that point where where we get things to kind of get to the tipping point. But what what I think is important is that it's not only marketing; it's also a cultural thing. So the whole connection between manliness and eating meat, it is not just about marketing. It is also something that is embedded in our cultures. So what the film also tries to do is it tries to tackle that problem on a cultural level. A film is nothing else than a product of culture. So that's what we're trying to do. And
have you had men come up to you and said, hey, you know, I used to think that I was manly for eating meat, and thank you, you've changed my mind, and now I'm eating more fruits and vegetables, or I've actually gone plant-based. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, thousands of them.
Woo! Will you just pick me up and carry me away?
Well, if you want that. I think we can arrange it.
Let me say this. I am so excited to be here, and as I was leaving, somebody who's a vegan said, boy, I would love to know Patrik's plant-based journey. Like, in other words, why did Patrik become vegan in the first place? Can you tell us?
Well, I can try to make it short because it's a long story actually. But so one thing is I did it in 2 steps. So I was vegetarian for 6 years before I went vegan. And the first step to go vegetarian was just about, I was living with my ex-girlfriend back then in a house very near a forest, and we had a lot of wildlife rescues that we would take care of and so on. So we're, you know, friendly with animals throughout the years. And at one point I was just thinking, I'm putting all this time and energy into trying to help these animals, and at the same time I'm eating other animals. So it was like kind of, you know, in the film you have basically Damien Mender telling the same story. So for me it was the same thing. I was trying to help animals while I was eating animals, and I thought this doesn't make any sense at all. So that was the first step where I thought, well, if I wouldn't kill a chicken to eat it, I shouldn't eat chicken. So I just stopped eating meat at that point, and that was the first step. And then I went on after 6 years where I have to actually go back again. So that was also the time when I started to compete at Strongman. Mm-hmm. That was so I went vegetarian. So I went vegetarian in 2005, and I started with Strongman in 2006. And then in 2011, when I won the title of Germany's Strongest Man as a vegetarian, I was all of a sudden getting a lot of media attention. So what I realized at that point was, so up to that point, the whole thing was just a private thing. I was just vegetarian because it was privately just in line with my values, and I was trying to do whatever I felt is the more ethical thing to do. But I knew at that point that actually if you want to reduce animal suffering, being vegan makes way more sense. I just wasn't convinced that I could do it while doing while doing my sport. So then when I won the title, all of a sudden I realized that I was convincing thousands of other people by being in the media. And at that point, I just thought, if it's possible to do a better job with this, I should go for it. So I was trying to figure out a way to be vegan and still do what I was doing. And I was, very hesitant.
Were you shocked that by going vegan, you actually got stronger?
I was totally shocked because I wasn't expecting it. So the reason I did it was, as I said, just ethical reasons.
Yes.
And I was convinced it would probably make things harder, but I would probably find a way to make it work.
And then you started beating your own records.
Yeah, and then when I went vegan, all of a sudden I was getting heavier. So I was getting heavier and stronger. But that's not the only thing. The important thing is that I was getting healthier. So as a vegetarian, for instance, I had iron deficiency, and that iron deficiency just completely disappeared after I went vegan. So it turns out the deficiency came from all the dairy that I was taking. Yes, of course. Dairy blocks your iron intake. So when I got rid of the dairy, my iron deficiency just went away. Then I had high blood pressure, which is normal for someone who is overweight as a strength athlete. They all have a high blood pressure, and my blood pressure stabilized and went down.
Wow.
Although I was getting heavier, which is counterintuitive. So yeah, everything was getting better, and it was actually shocking for me because I did not expect any of that.
So a couple of quick questions. Have fellow bodybuilders been inspired by you to go plant-based? Because I've met some bodybuilders Huge. Just, I believe Ryan Nelson and Corin Sutton are two gentlemen that I met who are just maybe not as ripped as you, but pretty ripped, and they're plant-based. Is there a movement toward plant-based in the bodybuilding world?
Yeah, there are, like nowadays, like when I go back 8 years ago when I went vegan, there were really just a handful of bodybuilders, and none of them were like top level or terribly impressive. And now you have dozens, actually hundreds of bodybuilders who are really, really impressive. Like on my Instagram, I have tons of strength athletes, bodybuilders, all kinds of guys who do similar things that I do. Especially after the Game Changers came out, you also have a lot of meat-eating bodybuilders saying, well, I'm going to give this a shot and I'm going to try this. So that's the awesome thing that the film has actually done. It reaches really even the top level guys who are convinced that they already know everything and makes them consider trying something new, and that's awesome.
Wow. Now I know you were telling me while we were setting up that you had a surprise and that you were going to give me an exclusive. So I'm very excited. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but what are you up to?
Well, let's say it that way. You said you want to talk about my future plans, and I said that's going to lead to me saying something that I haven't said in any interview. So it's not that it's not that I'm trying to put this forward, but so my future plans right now look away that I'm working on doing more acting. So I've done
yes.
So I've done some small things in the last few years, but I'm now starting to do more acting jobs, and I have stopped competing 3 years ago. So right now I'm looking for something new to put my energy into, and trying to do something new that is also more creative. So that's going to be the thing that I'm going to try to push for the next few years.
Well, I'm sure your buddies James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger might be able to help out with that. Not to mention Jackie.
We'll see.
You would be amazing, and I can't wait to go to a movie and you are the superhero, because you're my superhero.
Oh,
I want to say that you give me hope for our planet, and you, I think, teach the most important thing, that manliness is not about violence, that manliness is not about your ability to kill, that it is about functioning in the world and making it through the world and being super strong and being kind and compassionate at the same time. You single-handedly, with your team, I should say, with your amazing team on the Game Changers, are redefining masculinity. And that is so crucial for us to evolve as a species, because to a large degree, it is still a man's world. We're debating, there was in the last, a lot of people, let's leave that out. But I will say that redefining masculinity is one of the most important things that we have to achieve to achieve evolution of the human species. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that as we close up.
Well, you kind of have to have some concept of masculinity, and for me, masculinity and leadership have always been connected to taking responsibility. So for me to be, if I want to try to be a leader or try to be someone who inspires other people, it's all about, taking responsibility for your actions, and it's about actually protecting others. So, violence is something that even the weakest one in society can be violent. That is not something that shows strength.
No.
So the strong should always be the ones who try to protect the others, because that's hard. It's hard to protect others because, there is a lot of bad stuff going on in the world. So, and I'm not even just talking about violence between people, but there's also, there are so many things where you can protect others, and it's so much more responsibility. So if you want to prove yourself as a leader and as someone who is strong, in my eyes, you have to try to protect others. And there is actually no more effective way to protect others than to try to cause as little harm as possible with your own actions. And that's all about why I'm vegan, for instance, and why I'm trying to live a violent-free and cruelty-free life.
I just love you. I could stay here all day, but Jim is going to. Are you gonna? You want to pick me up? This is Jim's idea.
He could be on the. Okay.
Okay, we're going. Bye bye.
Oh please,
Here we go.
my dreams have come true. Thank you, Patrick. I love you.
Thanks,
You
Jane.
are my hero. You're changing the world.
Thank you so much.
Woo!